Hello and welcome to the Anything and Everything podcast. I'm Gaz and my partner in crime and co-host is
Glenn, aka Bez.
Today we're going to talk about 10 terrifying medical devices from history. And special request today by Christopher and Donna Berry, aka
Mum and Dad.
Okay, so it's normal to get anxious before going to the doctor or dentist, but in the days before modern medicine, you had every right to be absolutely terrified. So, number 10, tonsil guillotine, 19th century. This device was invented in 1828 and became the standard tool for removing tonsils. However, by the 19th century, surgeons used a scalpel and forceps instead as the guillotine, often caused heavy bleeding and left parts of the tonsils behind.
Oh, I hate that. Number 9. Circumcision scissors, the 10th and 11th century. Sorry, lads. Medieval surgeon Abdul al-Qasim al-Zahrawi transformed circumcision from a religious ritual to a surgical procedure. He invented several medical instruments and is believed to have been the first to use scissors in surgery. He favoured these over the use of knives on circumcision, as he said they made cut more even.
Okay, number 8. Dental key, 19th century. If you're scared of the dentist, just thank your lucky stars you weren't born in the 19th century. Rather than treat a simple toothache with antibiotics, infected teeth would have been pulled out using a dental key. Like this one, the claw would be tightened around the tooth and then rotated as if the user were turning a key in a lock. This procedure would have been extremely painful without the use of antiseptics, and patients often had to be restrained.
Oh, I don't like dentists. I hate dentists.
I'm not a fan, I must admit.
Right, we're on to number 7. The bullet extractor, 16th century. Invention of this revolutionary device, only bullets close to the surface of the skin could be removed. This bullet extractor allowed surgeons to dig much deeper. It consisted of a hollow rod containing a screw, which could be lengthened or shortened using the handle at the top. The instrument was placed in the wound and the screw lengthened in order to pierce the bullet and remove it.
Okay, number 6. A speculum, 1st century CE. Through the eruption of Mount Vesuvius,
Vesuvius.
That's the one. Destroyed lives of thousands of Roman people. The artifacts recovered from the ash-covered city of Pompeii provided a never-before-seen insight to the lives they led. This includes medicine. Several surgical instruments have been found here, including the terrifying-looking speculum. Roman gynecology was relatively primitive, and physicians even believed that a woman's womb could wander around the body, wreaking havoc on her internal organs and causing hysteria.
Number 5. Reduction device, 5th century BCE. Hippocrates is considered the father of Western medicine and detailed the oldest known method for treating a dislocated shoulder. He developed a ladder-like device across which injured arm was slung and then pulled downwards with significant force. In the 16th century, French royal surgeon Ambrose reintroduced this device and is still used today.
Okay, number 4. A lithium, 19th century. This long claw-like instrument was inserted up the urethra and into the bladder. The surgeons would then use it to grip onto small bladder stones and pull them out, or use the blade to cut up larger ones so they could be weed out. This all happened while the patient was wide awake and undoubtedly in a lot of pain. The surgeon also had to make sure they didn't slice the bladder in the process, or the patient would obviously bleed out to death.
Can you imagine that as a male going right
Oh,
right up? Right, takes us to number 3. The Iron Lung, 1920s. There was actually a documentary of that, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, the young lad at the time is still alive, and I don't know how old he is, but he actually still lives in this iron lung.
Well, these were one of the first life support machines that became famous for saving the lives of polio victims, whose breathing muscles had been paralysed by the disease. They consisted of an airtight chamber connected to an air pump. Air is sucked out and in of the chamber, causing the patient's lung to contract and expand and allowing them to breathe. Many polio patients recovered after spending only minutes inside the iron lung, whereas others, less than fortunate victims, spent their entire lives looking at the world through a mirror attached to the top of the machine.
Okay, number 2. Excuse me. The trypan, 18th century. These days, if we had a headache, we can take an aspirin, paracetamol, have a glass of water, and it usually disappears within an hour or two. But before the 20th century, the cure was a lot more gruesome. A hole was cut in the skull of the patient to expose the dura mater, the brain's tough outer layer. This was done using a trypan, which was essentially a hand-operated drill. In some parts of the globe, trypaning is still used today to treat mental disorders. Wow.
Can you imagine that being screwed into your head? And that brings us to the number 1, the osteotome, 19th century. Before general anaesthetics were found, amputations were incredibly painful and incredibly dangerous. Bones were often splintered and the tissue around them damaged by the harsh impact of a hammer and chisel, or the jolts of a saw. Surgeons needed to find a way to speed up the procedure and reduce the risk of complications. The solution came in the form of an osteotome, a device with a chain and a sharp cutting teeth that was cranked manually, which was in fact the first ever chainsaw.
Wow, can you imagine doing that today? Yes, hold on, patient.
But if there's anything you like and anything you want to discuss and topics you want to do, put it down in the comments. Please subscribe, share and like, and click that little bell which sounds like
Ding ding.
And as we always say to all of you out there, peace, love
and be lucky. Many
thanks.
thanks.